As far back as 2005, emerging signs of a mortgage meltdown were leading some in the industry to lose sleep. There were people like Kevin Stein, a California industry insider, who was worried that complicated loans were being given to people who didn't understand them and couldn't afford to pay them back. Stein tried to sound the alarm.
Raising these issues with the industry, raising them with our state legislature, raising them with the federal banking regulators, I think across the board we think all of these institutions have failed us.
Stein wasn't the only one worried. Parts of the government were too, and Washington began considering changing banking rules to limit the risky loans, drafting this report in 2005. But under intense lobbying from the banking industry, the Bush administration ended up eliminating much of the language of the report, in effect weakening mortgage rules.
People tended not to accept our arguments.
And a lot of these banks that pushed the hardest and said, no, we don't need regulations, they did fail. I mean, and they're at the very center of the crisis we're facing right now.
Among them, Washington Mutual, the largest bank failure in U.S. history. In 2005, WAMU officials wrote to the government, these mortgages have been considered more safe and sound for portfolio lenders than many fixed-rate mortgages. Countrywide, then the nation's largest mortgage lender, wrote, interest-only and payment option adjustable mortgages have been tested in previous economic cycles and are fundamentally sound loan products. The proposal appears excessive and will inhibit future innovation in the marketplace. IndyMac and Lehman Brothers also opposed the tougher rules. IndyMac was seized by the federal government in July. In September, Lehman Brothers made the biggest bankruptcy filing in U.S. history and was sold to British-based Barclays.
Clearly, in hindsight, it's probably a lot easier to see where these regulations could have come in to, dampen the impact of the crisis that we're seeing today.
There was even disagreement within the Treasury Department. While the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency called for tighter lending rules, the Office of Thrift Supervision called for more flexibility, worrying that a lending crackdown would hurt the industry and consumers.
The industry was making a ton of money and nobody was suffering at that point.
Just a few years later, that suffering is all too real for millions of Americans. Matt Friedman, The Associated Press.